and no evidence has been brought forward to support it. Those are extremely incendiary allegations, in my view, weaponizing mental health and suicide to portray yourself as a victim. If Meghan Markle has proof that 2 senior members of the royal household refused to let her get help for suicidal thoughts, I want to know who they were, when they said it, and they shouldn't have those jobs. But we are now a year and a bit. So I was then told by my bosses, look, by the way, rule 1 here, never apologize, never clarify, never do anything. So
I can verify that. It doesn't work.
We know this. So we did a clarification the next day, and it made no difference. The complaints kept coming in. And eventually my bosses said, can you just apologize to Meghan Markle, or you're going to have to, maybe lose your job. I went, I'll take the job option, thanks, I'll leave. And I walked off into the sunset.
Piers Morgan has just done something that's sending Meghan Markle's team into crisis mode. And sources say the fallout is only beginning. The controversial broadcaster didn't hold back during a recent episode of his show Piers Morgan Uncensored, allegedly bringing up photos that have haunted Meghan for years. Images that mysteriously disappeared from the internet. Pictures that insiders claim represent a past she's desperately tried to erase from public memory. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. Morgan didn't just mention these photos in passing. Observers say he allegedly mocked the entire situation on live television. Questioned why evidence keeps getting scrubbed from social media platforms. Pointed out the suspicious pattern of photos vanishing whenever they surface online. And with millions watching his YouTube show, sources claim Meghan's legal team is scrambling to contain damage before this controversy explodes into mainstream headlines. Piers Morgan mocked Meghan Markle during a live TV segment, drawing attention to previously deleted yacht-related photos that have resurfaced online. The moment immediately sparked reactions as clips and screenshots spread across social media. Viewers focused on how live television pushed old online material back into public view. The discussion quickly turned to reputation, timing, and why deleted content keeps coming back. This breakdown explains what was said on air, what reappeared afterward, and why the reaction has become a major talking point in celebrity news. What exactly did Piers say about these deleted photos that has people buzzing across social media right now? And why does this narrative refuse to die no matter how many times it gets addressed? Tonight, we're examining the pattern of photos related to Meghan mysteriously disappearing from the internet. We're looking at why Piers Morgan has made exposing this image control his personal mission. And we're investigating what it means when someone's past requires this much management to keep hidden. Because this isn't just about whether specific photos exist or don't exist. This is about the suspicious pattern of evidence vanishing. About aggressive image management that raises more questions than it answers. About why someone who claims to value authenticity works so hard to scrub the internet of anything that doesn't fit her carefully constructed narrative. Let's start with the bad blood between Piers Morgan and Meghan Markle, because understanding their history explains why Piers has become obsessed with exposing what he sees as her carefully managed lies. The bad blood between Piers Morgan and Meghan Markle isn't new, but recent developments have taken their public disagreement to explosive new levels. Morgan runs Piers Morgan Uncensored exclusively on YouTube now, a show that reaches millions of viewers weekly without network restrictions telling him what he can or cannot discuss. Since moving his program to the platform, he's had complete freedom to address topics that mainstream television wouldn't touch. And sources say Meghan has become one of his favorite subjects. The context matters here because Morgan and Meghan were actually friendly before everything fell apart. They connected on social media, met for drinks at a pub in London, and Morgan believed they were building genuine friendship. Then Meghan had dinner with Prince Harry the very next night. And according to Morgan's own documented statements, she completely stopped responding to his messages after that, cutting off contact the moment someone more prominent entered her life. That personal situation has fueled what observers call an obsession, with Morgan bringing up Meghan constantly on his show, questioning her credibility, challenging her narratives, and refusing to let her control the story about who she really is and what she's done. Think about how that kind of personal betrayal would feel.
She got a bit of royal action, along with her entire family, of course, on both sides, apart from her mother. I don't think Meghan Markle's in any position to be lecturing anybody about friendship. It's hard to imagine two people who've been less compassionate in the last few years.
You spend an evening with someone who seems genuinely interested in friendship. You help them network. You treat them like an equal even though they're nowhere near your level of fame or success. And then the very next day, they meet a prince and you cease to exist to them. No explanation. No courtesy message. Just complete ghosting the moment someone more valuable appeared. For most people, that would sting. For Piers Morgan, who built his career on calling out phonies and hypocrites, it became a crusade. And now that he has a platform with no network restrictions, now that he can say whatever he wants without fear of being fired or censored, Morgan has made exposing Meghan's carefully managed image his personal mission. What makes this latest commentary particularly significant is the timing. Just recently, Kim Kardashian deleted photos from her Instagram that showed Meghan and Harry at Kris Jenner's birthday party. Multiple outlets documented that these photos appeared briefly, then vanished, raising questions about why images of Meghan at celebrity events keep disappearing from social platforms. Observers following Morgan's show claim he allegedly connected this recent deletion to a broader pattern, suggesting photos of Meghan in certain situations have been systematically removed from the internet over the years. Whether Morgan showed actual photos on his program or simply discussed their mysterious disappearance varies, depending on which social media accounts are reporting the story. But what's consistent is that he allegedly brought attention to questions about why visual evidence of Meghan's pre-royal life keeps getting scrubbed. Sources say this represents Piers' most direct challenge yet to Meghan's carefully controlled public image. Because he's not just questioning her version of events. He's pointing out the suspicious pattern of evidence that might contradict her story mysteriously vanishing from the internet. And once you start noticing that pattern, once you see how aggressively Meghan's team works to control what's available online, it becomes very difficult to believe the innocent narrative she's been selling.
Well, has it crossed Meghan Markle's mind what she did to me?
You know, like on the suicide, Meghan said...
I didn't cost her a job.
You know, she was saying she was suicidal. Again, I don't want to go back to the point of mental health, but did you ever think, is this going to hurt this person on a...
She said that two people at the palace, when she told them she had suicidal thoughts, said she couldn't get treatment because it would be damaging to the brand.
Yeah.
I don't believe.
Morgan has said publicly that he doesn't think Meghan is in any position to be lecturing anybody about friendship. That it's hard to imagine two people who've been less compassionate in the last few years than Harry and Meghan. That she got rid of almost her entire family, wrestled Harry away from his family, and now lectures the world about values she clearly doesn't practice herself. That kind of relentless criticism, coming from someone with Morgan's platform and reach, creates a problem that Meghan can't solve through her usual PR strategies. She can issue denials. She can have her representatives call the allegations baseless. She can work with platforms to remove content. But she can't stop Morgan from raising questions. She can't force him to be silent. And she can't prevent millions of people from hearing those questions and starting to wonder if maybe he has a point. Comment below if you think Piers Morgan is justified in his obsession with exposing Meghan, or if he needs to let go of the personal betrayal and move on. When we come back, we're examining the specific allegations that have followed Meghan for years despite her repeated denials. And why those allegations refuse to die even when fact-checkers say there's no evidence. Stay with us. Certain allegations have followed Meghan for years despite efforts to address them completely. Online forums and social media accounts have claimed that photos exist showing Meghan in luxury yacht settings before she met Harry. However, it's crucial to note what fact-checkers have consistently found. Geo News reported recently that these supposed images are nothing more than figment of imagination, that no such photographs of Meghan Markle actually exist in verified form. Now to Love magazine stated that representatives strongly deny these claims, calling them internet rumors without credible evidence. Fact-checkers have repeatedly said there's no proof these images are real. Multiple investigations by reputable outlets have found no verified evidence supporting these allegations. This is important context that Morgan's critics say he ignores when discussing the topic. They argue he's platforming baseless conspiracy theories without proper fact-checking, giving legitimacy to rumors that have been repeatedly debunked. But here's what makes certain rumors persist despite debunking attempts. Some people claim they remember seeing photos years ago that have since vanished from the internet. Images that were allegedly scrubbed from platforms before they could be archived. Whether those memories are accurate or influenced by online theories is impossible to determine now. But the pattern of people insisting they saw evidence that no longer exists creates questions that keep circulating. Colin Jost made jokes about Meghan during Saturday Night Live commentary recently, bringing certain allegations into mainstream comedy. The fact that a major comedian felt comfortable making these jokes on national television suggests the rumors have penetrated public consciousness beyond just internet communities. When observers claim Piers Morgan addressed this topic on his show, they're pointing to how he allegedly questioned why these rumors exist if there's absolutely no basis. Why multiple people across years claim to have seen content that conveniently disappeared. Morgan's commentary reportedly focused less on claiming things definitely exist and more on asking why the possibility generates such extreme defensive reactions from Meghan's team. That framing allows him to raise questions while avoiding direct accusations that could create legal issues. A strategy observers say is classic Morgan, using his platform to force uncomfortable conversations without crossing legal lines that would give Meghan grounds to sue him. Think about how this works from a rhetorical perspective. Morgan doesn't have to prove the photos exist. He just has to point out the suspicious pattern of photos vanishing, of aggressive image management, of people claiming they saw things that can no longer be found. By focusing on the pattern rather than specific claims, he creates doubt without exposing himself to legal liability. He makes people wonder why Meghan's team works so hard to scrub the internet if there's nothing to hide. And that's more effective than making specific allegations that could be debunked. Because the pattern is real. Photos do disappear. Content does get removed. And nobody disputes that Meghan's team aggressively manages her online presence. The question is why. And different people answer that question differently based on what they already believe about Meghan. If you think she's authentic and the allegations are baseless, you see normal PR management protecting someone from false rumors. If you think she's calculated and hiding her past, you see aggressive scrubbing of evidence that would contradict her carefully constructed narrative. What strengthens certain narratives for some believers isn't necessarily proof of specific claims, but rather the documented pattern of images related to Meghan mysteriously disappearing from public access. The Kim Kardashian incident provides a recent example of this phenomenon. Photos showing Meghan and Harry at a celebrity party were posted to Instagram, circulated briefly, then deleted without clear public explanation. Multiple entertainment outlets confirmed this happened. It's not disputed that the images existed, then vanished. Now, whether Kardashian deleted them at Meghan's request, or removed them for her own reasons, or took them down due to some other factor remains unclear. But for people already questioning Meghan's image management, this deletion fits what they claim is a pattern they've observed. Social media posts showing Meghan in certain contexts allegedly get removed. Old photos from her acting days mysteriously become harder to find online. Images that some people claim show Meghan in situations that don't match her public narrative somehow disappear before they can be widely documented. Each individual instance might have an innocent explanation, but collectively, they create a pattern that makes people suspicious. And Piers Morgan has made highlighting that pattern his mission. Because even if he can't prove specific allegations, he can prove the pattern of deletion exists. And that pattern raises questions Meghan can't answer without either admitting she's hiding something or explaining why her past requires such aggressive management. Comment below if you've ever seen photos of Meghan that later disappeared from the internet. Because that's the pattern Morgan is highlighting. When we come back, we're examining Meghan's strategic response to these allegations. And why her team chooses PR denials over aggressive legal action that could settle questions definitively. Stay with us. Here's where Meghan faces a strategic challenge that observers say explains her team's approach to various allegations. Her representatives consistently deny rumors through PR statements rather than aggressive legal action. And that distinction matters to people analyzing her strategy. Some interpret this as evidence she wants to avoid legal discovery process that could force production of materials she prefers to keep private. Others argue she's simply choosing not to amplify allegations through high-profile lawsuits that would give rumors more attention. Both explanations have merit depending on your assumptions. What's documented is that Meghan's team responds primarily through PR denials and platform content removal rather than demanding accusers provide proof in court. And different people interpret that approach differently. When Piers Morgan allegedly addressed this topic on his show, observers say he highlighted exactly this dynamic. If Meghan takes aggressive legal action against people making allegations, she potentially opens herself to discovery process where opposing legal teams could demand production of various materials and communications. That discovery could potentially expose things she wants to keep private, even if specific allegations being made prove false. It could force her to produce evidence about her past, her connections, her activities before meeting Harry. So she's allegedly in a position where aggressive legal response creates more risk than simply trying to manage discussion through PR and platform removals. Morgan reportedly understands this completely, which is why he can discuss topics relatively freely, knowing the legal response he'd face is limited. Meghan's team might issue statements calling his commentary baseless or irresponsible. But they're unlikely to sue him, because suing would require discovery that might expose information Meghan prefers to keep hidden. This strategic calculation allows Morgan to raise questions without clear way for those questions to be definitively shut down through legal channels. Think about what this means practically. If Meghan sued Morgan for defamation over his commentary about deleted photos and image management, Morgan's lawyers could demand production of all communications between Meghan's team and social media platforms regarding content removal. They could subpoena records showing what photos were deleted, when, and why. They could force testimony about what Meghan told her team to scrub from the internet and what her reasons were for those deletions. Even if Morgan couldn't prove specific allegations about yacht photos, the discovery process might reveal an aggressive pattern of image control that would be embarrassing in its own right. So Meghan stays silent. Issues generic denials through representatives. Works with platforms to remove content quietly. And hopes the controversies fade without forcing her into legal discovery that could be more damaging than the original allegations. But that strategy has limits. Because the silence itself creates suspicion. The aggressive content removal raises questions. And people like Piers Morgan can point to the pattern and ask why someone with nothing to hide works so hard to control what's available online. Morgan has pointed out repeatedly that when he questions Meghan's narratives on his show, when he brings up topics mainstream media won't touch, Meghan's team doesn't sue him for defamation. They don't demand he prove his claims in court. They just issue statements and try to get platforms to remove clips. And to Morgan, that tells him everything he needs to know. If the allegations were completely baseless, if there was truly nothing to the rumors about Meghan's past, why not force accusers to prove their claims in court? Why not use the discovery process to demonstrate definitively that the allegations are false and extract damages from people spreading them? The fact that Meghan consistently chooses not to pursue that path suggests to Morgan and his supporters that legal discovery would reveal things she doesn't want revealed. Now, Meghan's defenders would argue this is unfair. They'd say that not suing doesn't prove guilt, it just proves savvy understanding that lawsuits amplify controversies and create more problems than they solve. They'd point out that famous people constantly face false allegations, and suing everyone who says something negative would be a full-time job that generates endless headlines, keeping the allegations in public consciousness. And that's a fair counterargument. There are legitimate strategic reasons to ignore false allegations rather than fighting them in court. But the pattern still exists. The deletions still happen. The aggressive image management is still documented. And people who are already suspicious of Meghan see that pattern as confirmation that she's hiding something significant about her past. Piers Morgan has weaponized that pattern, turning Meghan's strategic silence into evidence that validates his skepticism about her authenticity. Comment below if you think Meghan should sue her accusers if the allegations are false, or if her current strategy of ignoring and denying is smarter. When we come back, we're examining what actually happened on Morgan's show, whether he showed photos or just discussed their deletion, and why the ambiguity around what he said matters. Stay with us. Whether Piers Morgan actually showed photos on his program or simply discussed alleged deletions and patterns depends on which version of the story you're reading online. Social media accounts reporting on the episode claim different things. Some saying images appeared on screen. Others saying Morgan only talked about content that allegedly used to exist, but can't be found anymore. What's consistent across versions is that Morgan allegedly brought significant attention to questions about image control and deleted content that mainstream media considers too controversial to address directly. His commentary reportedly focused on the pattern of evidence disappearing, the questions created by aggressive image management, the logical inquiries that arise when someone's team works hard to scrub the internet of specific content. For viewers already skeptical of Meghan's carefully managed public persona, this commentary allegedly confirmed suspicions. For defenders who believe various allegations are unfounded conspiracy theories, Morgan's discussion represents irresponsible platforming of false narratives without proper evidence or fact-checking. It's important to note what credible fact-checkers have consistently found. Major outlets that investigated these claims found no verified evidence supporting allegations about Meghan's past. Geo News explicitly stated the photos people reference don't actually exist. Multiple fact-checking organizations have debunked these theories repeatedly. Representatives have strongly denied all such claims. This context is crucial when evaluating Morgan's commentary and the reactions it generates. But Morgan's strategy doesn't require proving specific photos exist. His strategy is to highlight the pattern and ask why it exists. Why do photos keep disappearing? Why is there such aggressive management of Meghan's online presence? Why do people claim to remember seeing things that can no longer be found? By focusing on verifiable facts, the deletions, the management, the pattern, Morgan creates suspicion without having to prove unprovable allegations. And that's brilliant from a rhetorical standpoint, because Meghan can't sue him for pointing out documented facts about content removal. She can't force him to retract statements about the pattern of deletion when that pattern is real and documented. All she can do is issue denials and hope people believe her version of why the pattern exists. The broader impact goes beyond just what Morgan said on one episode. By addressing topics on a show reaching millions, he's legitimized discussions that were previously confined to internet forums. Observers note that when mainstream figures like Morgan talk about deleted photos and image control, even just to question patterns, it moves narratives into spaces where PR control is weaker. Whether that shift helps surface legitimate questions or simply spreads damaging falsehoods depends on whether you believe there's substance behind the claims or if they're baseless attacks. But either way, Morgan has succeeded in making this a mainstream conversation. The questions about Meghan's past, about the deleted photos, about the aggressive image management, are no longer just internet conspiracy theories. They're topics being discussed by someone with a massive platform, reaching millions of people who might never have encountered these questions otherwise. And once those questions are in the mainstream consciousness, once millions of people are wondering why Meghan works so hard to control her image, it becomes much harder for her team to make the controversies disappear. Morgan has also pointed out the contradiction in Meghan's public persona. She presents herself as authentic, as someone who values transparency and honesty. She lectures the world about compassion and truth-telling. But behind the scenes, her team allegedly works overtime to scrub the internet of anything that doesn't fit her narrative. Photos disappear. Content gets removed. People who knew her before Harry are silenced or cut off. That's not transparency. That's aggressive management of a carefully constructed image that can't withstand scrutiny. And that contradiction between what Meghan claims to be and what her actions reveal is what Morgan hammers on repeatedly. Comment below if you think Morgan is highlighting legitimate questions or if he's irresponsibly spreading conspiracy theories. When we come back, we're examining what this controversy reveals about image management in the digital age, and why Meghan's aggressive approach to controlling her narrative keeps backfiring. Stay with us. Understanding why this controversy matters requires examining broader patterns in how public figures manage their image and online presence. Multiple documented instances show photos related to various celebrities disappearing from platforms, from recent Kardashian deletions to older images that became harder to find. Whether each individual deletion has innocent explanation or represents something more depends on interpretation. But collectively, they create questions about image control in the digital age. When public figures need significant management regarding their past, observers wonder what specifically motivates that level of control. The counterargument is that famous people naturally want to control their narrative and remove content that doesn't serve their current brand, which is normal public relations practice. Piers Morgan allegedly tapped into these broader questions during recent commentary, framing photo deletion discussion as example of larger pattern rather than isolated incident. Sources say his analysis connected multiple points: the deleted Kardashian photos, the aggressive approach to controlling narrative, the PR machine working to manage public perception. Whether these connections prove actual coordination or simply reflect how famous people normally manage public image is debatable, but Morgan's commentary reportedly presented them as worth investigating. For millions watching his show, many already distrustful of Meghan based on other controversies, this framing allegedly reinforced existing beliefs. Whether those beliefs rest on solid evidence or confirmation bias, interpreting normal PR activity as suspicious depends on individual assessment. But here's the problem Meghan faces in the digital age. The more aggressively you try to control your image, the more suspicious it looks. The more content you have removed, the more people wonder what you're trying to hide. In previous eras, public figures could reinvent themselves relatively easily. Old photos stayed in physical archives that most people would never access. Past connections could be downplayed or forgotten. Image management was simpler because information was harder to find. But in the digital age, everything gets archived. Screenshots get taken. Content gets saved and shared. And attempts to scrub the internet often backfire because they draw more attention to whatever you're trying to hide. Meghan's team apparently didn't fully anticipate this dynamic. They've been using traditional PR strategies, issue denials, work with platforms to remove content, try to control the narrative through friendly media outlets. But those strategies don't work as well anymore. Because every deletion gets noticed. Every removed photo generates questions. Every aggressive attempt to control the narrative makes people more suspicious, not less. And people like Piers Morgan understand this completely. They know that highlighting the pattern of deletion is more effective than trying to prove specific allegations. They know that asking questions creates more doubt than making claims. So Morgan doesn't have to show the photos Meghan allegedly wants hidden. He just has to point out that photos keep disappearing and ask why. He doesn't have to prove Meghan has something to hide. He just has to highlight how aggressively her team works to control her image and let people draw their own conclusions. And in the digital age, where information spreads instantly and people are increasingly skeptical of carefully managed PR narratives, that strategy is devastatingly effective. Palace observers are reportedly aware as these questions gain traction beyond conspiracy communities. Royal matters require transparent documentation for everyone involved. And if serious unresolved questions persist despite repeated denials, at some point clarity might become necessary. Whether we've reached that point remains unclear. But observers note that when someone with Morgan's platform keeps addressing these issues, when millions discuss them whether substantiated or not, pressure builds. The truth about various allegations, whatever that truth actually is, may continue demanding attention regardless of management attempts. And with Morgan allegedly committed to forcing these conversations into public spaces, sources say carefully constructed narratives might finally face scrutiny they were designed to avoid. Comment below if you think Meghan's aggressive image management makes her look more suspicious or if it's just normal PR practice. When we come back, we're wrapping up with what this means for Meghan's future credibility. Because the questions Morgan is raising aren't going away, and her strategy for dealing with them isn't working. Stay with us. We've reached the core of why Piers Morgan's commentary matters and why this controversy refuses to die despite Meghan's team's best efforts. This isn't really about whether specific photos exist or don't exist. It's about a pattern of behavior that makes people question everything Meghan says about her past. Photos disappear from the internet. Content gets scrubbed from platforms. People who knew her before Harry either stay silent or get cut off. Old social media gets deleted. Her past becomes increasingly hard to document or verify. And all of that might be normal celebrity PR management. Or it might be evidence of someone desperately trying to hide a past that contradicts the narrative they're selling. The problem Meghan faces is that the more aggressively she tries to control the story, the less people believe her version of events. Morgan has tapped into widespread skepticism about Meghan's authenticity. He's given voice to doubts that millions of people have, but that mainstream media won't express publicly. And by focusing on verifiable patterns rather than unverifiable claims, he's created a narrative that Meghan can't shut down through her usual strategies. She can issue denials, but that doesn't explain why the deletions keep happening. She can have representatives call the allegations baseless, but that doesn't address why her team works so hard to scrub the internet. She can try to ignore Morgan, but his platform reaches millions who are now asking questions they might never have thought to ask. This represents a fundamental shift in how public figures can manage their narratives. In the past, Meghan's strategy might have worked. Control what information is available. Work with friendly media. Issue statements through representatives. Wait for controversies to fade. But in the digital age, with platforms like Morgan's operating outside traditional media constraints, that strategy is failing. The questions keep coming. The suspicious patterns keep getting highlighted. And Meghan's credibility keeps eroding because her response to scrutiny looks like someone with something to hide rather than someone with nothing to fear from honest examination. Whether Morgan is right about specific allegations is almost beside the point now. He's succeeded in making millions of people question Meghan's honesty. He's highlighted patterns that create legitimate doubt. He's forced a conversation about image control and authenticity that Meghan can't win. Because the facts support his narrative, even if specific allegations don't. Photos do disappear. Content does get removed. The pattern of aggressive image management is documented and real. And as long as that pattern exists, Morgan and others will keep pointing to it as evidence that Meghan isn't who she claims to be. What happens next depends on whether Meghan changes her strategy or continues down the path that's failing. She could choose transparency, addressing the questions directly rather than through PR statements. She could explain the deletions rather than pretending they don't happen. She could provide documentation of her past rather than working to hide it. But that would require admitting that her carefully constructed narrative has gaps and inconsistencies. It would require vulnerability that seems foreign to how she's operated up to this point. So most likely, she'll continue the current strategy. More denials. More content removal. More aggressive image management. And Morgan will continue highlighting the pattern, asking why someone with nothing to hide works so hard to control what people can see. And millions of people will continue doubting Meghan's authenticity because the pattern speaks louder than her denials. What do you think? Is Piers Morgan exposing legitimate questions about Meghan's past? Or is he irresponsibly platforming conspiracy theories? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Like this video and subscribe because Morgan isn't done talking about this, and neither are we. The questions about Meghan's past and her aggressive image management will continue to be asked until either she provides real answers or until enough evidence emerges that the pattern becomes undeniable. Until next time, remember that in the digital age, the harder you try to hide something, the more people want to know what you're hiding. And Meghan Markle is learning that lesson the hard way.